Thinking of playing Iron Cross, man-to-man combat on the East Front, 1941-42. Machine gun fire lane. Fire lanes represent an MG's ability to fire a sustained burst along a line of fire such that any unit in that line is subject to attack. If a player chooses an FL mode, he must write down next to the machine guns placed on the roster chart the target hex for that fire lane during the upcoming player turn. This target hex can be any hex within the MG's unblocked line of sight and within its initial range. All hexes touched by a straight line from the center of the MG's hex to the center of the target hex are subject to attack by the MG. A fire lane only applies to hexes that are on the same level as the MG. So I'm definitely maintaining my interest and enjoyment of this design. It's quite good. And also it can be picked up with practice. I mean steadily. Yeah, I should say steadily. I haven't had any major stumbling blocks. And I don't know that the game is really that complex, but it is one of those designs where there are a lot of little things going on at the same time. A lot of little things. I like that, especially for the scale and scope. I left one note here. I have a note 1 here, and that is because I think, if I remember correctly, I fired the machine gun that's in this stack, and then I tried to fire with this stack, and I forgot, and I need to remember that there's something that there's a rule. It's not called this, but it is in effect this machine gun assisted attack. So even though I was attacking with this squad, they could have combined their fire with that machine gun. So basically a machine gun adjacent. Medium machine gun units stacked with or adjacent to infantry units and or other machine gun units may combine their AP factors into one total AP firepower strength. Machine gun units may participate in group fire, provided they are in one of the two hexes. So yeah, even though there is group fire, there's also simply machine gun assisted attacks. Okay, so it's still the German player turn, and now we are to the 6th phase, moving fire phase. So the phasing player, the Germans here, may attempt to fire any of the normal status units that have already fired, such as the machine gun here. Oh, I'm going to keep that separate. Yeah, so the machine gun here is already fired in the turn, so it doesn't, not eligible now. Where is it? Infantry and armored fighting vehicle units which have moved may fire, but with a penalty, and crude weapon units that have moved may not fire. Okay, so what we're going to do, oh, by the way, I'm going to talk about objectives now since I've gotten this far. These are still ATS units. These are all the yellow markers are that I'm using, as well as the target unit markers there are all from ATS. So I'm going to use the German side and the Russian side. I'm going to use the German side because the Germans are in control of the objective. So both sides are fighting for this building right here, this multi-hex building here. The side that has a unit in each of these hexes at the end of the firefight here, 7 turns, wins. Otherwise it's a draw. So actually I guess I better move one of those guys into the other hex at some point, but I'll just leave that there to show the objective. Okay, now for the moving fire phase, I am going to definitely fire these two at the Russians on the hill there, and then yeah, and then okay, so yeah, so this would be again, I'm not sure what they call it, but this is stack fire because they're in the same squad stacked together that they can fire, and this is all Charlie squad, so actually there's not a question. But then let's see, it's the moving fire phase. See, I still think if it were my design, I would have them take a penalty for having held their fire this long, but maybe there's something I haven't seen yet. So these two riflemen are going to fire at who can they see? Actually, they can see the same. They'll be firing through the trees, but they'll actually be able to hit the same target. So they can't combine. There's no combining in this situation ever, because they're in two completely different and separate hexes. But I'll fire first with... Who should I fire first with? I guess I should fire these guys first. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Now I'm back to... The rules don't specify this, but... Okay, I was wondering about this before. Do I have this... Yeah, only one unit in a hex can attempt to observe. And if they're successful... Oh, wait a minute. Does that... No, never mind. That's not a commander. That's an acting leader, but not a commander. Never mind. It doesn't... Okay, it doesn't matter. But... Well, I'll shoot with all three anyways. What I'm... With the MP, so on the top here we have, by the way, we have Witzig. Witzig, this German soldier here, Witzig, is pretty good. He has a proficiency of 10. He's armed with a MP, which, by the way, yeah, I suppose I should start talking about the actual, what's actually referred to here. So MP40. And so Witzig with his MP40 has an initial range of 2. Which means that his AP firepower of 6 is out to range 2, and then it's going to drop off 1 for each increment of the initial range beyond that. So what that means is his firepower is 6-6, 5-5, 4-4, 3-3-2. That's what it is. And by the way, since he's firing through 2 trees, he goes down to 0. Which again, I guess a 0 firepower attack is an automatic null attack, I guess. Okay, never mind. Witzig will not take part. Okay, so it'll be Schmunt and Abitz and Schmunt. Come on, Schmunt. All right. 8 and 6. All right, so we'll go right through the numbers again. 2. Isn't that interesting? Schmunt has a 1 higher close combat rating, assault rating. Isn't that interesting? I didn't notice that. I thought they all had uniform firepower and assault values. Huh. So. Not sure what's going on there yet. All right, range. Yeah, declare attack. So 2 riflemen firing at that stack. Range is 9. So we've got our range of 9. The Russians. Okay, so determine line of sight. I'll just do this again. So center hex. It goes through 2 because they're looking up 1 level, but the trees are level 1 as well. They're looking up through 2 trees. So that's line of sight, attempt observation. So first the Russians are, they're in a clear hex with 1 tree. A clear hex with 1 tree. That's actually going to make a difference for firepower. For observation as well, actually. All right, so but the base observation is still the clear terrain hex they're in. So that's 10, but there are going to be a lot of modifiers that apply. All right, so for every 5 beyond, well, there isn't 5 beyond 5, the initial 5, so there is no adjustment for range. No improved positions, a tree symbol in the target hex. We have 1 tree symbol in the target hex. So we have a +1. Okay, and then trees, AFVs or RECs along the line of sight. We have those 2. So now we're up to 3. Marsh and non-AFV and downstate, they're in upstate because they're on their black text side, so they're upstate, so that doesn't apply. If the observing unit moved, these guys did not move, otherwise they would be marked, which, by the way, I need to figure out. Oh. See, this is why I need to record everything like this, because if they're marked with a movement, I go back to the last movement phase, which would have been the reaction movement phase, which is just 2, yeah, so it applies. So, in other words, they are treated as moving for these observers and fires. Okay. This hex was not previously successfully observed. They're not 2 or more levels higher, they're only 1 level higher. Okay, any unit in the target hex moved within the last 3 phases. Again, this is why I'm in the moving fire phase. I go back 1, 2, 3. So the movement phase is our German phase, but the reaction movement phase is the Russians' movement. And because they are marked, this is only, so that's only 2 phases prior, and because they're marked, I'm assuming they moved during the reaction movement phase. So it is -2, so we're back down to +1. AFVs, observer's not a commander. The target hex has 4 soldiers or more. No, it only has 3. LMG, rifle, and rifle. All right, and then they did not fire, so we just have a bunch of modifiers for who's fired. So it's +1, 10 or less. Oh, wow. They roll a 10. +1 is 11, so they did not observe. So it's unobserved fire. So this is going to turn into a really ineffective fire, but I'm going to go through it anyways. So the where am I? Oh, PCs to fire, actually. So we've got Schmund. He rolls a 4, and his proficiency rating is an 8, so he's good. And then Abitz rolls a 6. His proficiency rating is a 6, so they're both going to participate. Total modified firepower. Okay, so this is where we get to range attenuation. They are firing at 9. Their initial range is 8. So they're going to subtract 1 because they go into the next band or increment of 9 hexes. So right away their 4s drop to a 3. So now we have 6. Keep this going here. So we have 6. That, and then the next step is to do quartering and halving and thirding. So here's where we're going to have, because it's unobserved. I'm going to have the firepower because it's unobserved. So 6 is going to go down to a 3. And then terrain. All right, so they are -1 for each tree symbol in the target hex. So we're subtracting 1 from. By the way, is it total? I was reading this and wondering this the other day. Okay, I do think I was doing that wrong before. It does say an AP firepower total may be reduced. So I think it is from the 3, not from each of them for the terrain here. Yeah. Okay, but we're still going to hit 0 because it's going to be -1 for the tree in the hex and -1 for each of the along the loss. So 3 goes to 0. So I guess because it was unobserved. And isn't that interesting? They're still going to be marked fired with all that comes with that. This is the 6th phase. So then mark everybody. I don't need to mark any observation because I did not successfully observe. So they fired in the 6th phase. Oh, and then but it's not all of them because Bitzig did not take part. And there we go.